Good Morning Sleepyheads is back in day 2 of Ryan Trahan's new Penny series, and that's what we're going to talk about today. He didn't really spend much time on the bus trip. Obviously, that was a lot of fun in the American cross-country thing. Last year, he spent a lot of time talking to some people, and we met some unique characters, and I think that would be really cool if he spent more time on the bus today and talked about that. But also, it was overnight, so I guess I understand that. Ryan is in Amsterdam just like we thought he was going to be yesterday, which, I mean, we had Twitter to help us out, so it wasn't like it was a guess on where he was. I loved his line when he said he's loving Amsterdam. He said he's loving it. And he said, speaking of I'm loving it, it's time to eat. That was a great line, and I don't think he's ever used that, and I wonder if that's the kind of thing that he's just, he thought of it between now and last Penny series, and he's like, man, I've got to use that. But I thought that was really clever. And then we were right in yesterday's video. He does get a new thing from McDonald's, and he gets a chili chicken sandwich, which I had never even heard of, and that is super fun that he was able to get that. He said it was like sweet and sour chicken, which was an interesting concept. I don't know if that's something that I would enjoy, but if you're watching this and you're from Amsterdam, let us know if that's the kind of thing that, I feel like Americans would like that. And then obviously he got a coffee, but then he spilled it, and it looked like he spilt most of it, so I'm sure that was devastating for him, and I just honestly don't know how he went through the day without having coffee, just because he's definitely a coffee guy. And then they play Empire State of Mind in the Amsterdam McDonald's, which, that's so interesting to me. That's an old song. I don't really imagine, a McDonald's in America playing that, but that's pretty cool. And then he got his flight out of Amsterdam yesterday, and it leaves, he says, in a couple days. So I don't know if he's leaving tomorrow on day 3 or all the way in day 4. But if he leaves in day 4, it's going to be a tight squeeze. I guess I could see day 4 and then 5, 6 in the new place, and then 7 is all about getting back to America. I guess I could see that. The goal for the day, according to him, is to rent a bike to become a local, and then that is £10 for a 24-hour rental. So he starts off with a very small amount of money, and he needs £10. But how does he get there? And he wants to window clean. That's his genius idea for the day. And, this has never really worked out super well for Ryan because he's not really gotten much business. That's the big problem. And he talks about, when he was in Las Vegas, it was pretty successful. But even then, he was charging a lot and he was not getting many offers, many acceptances. So he was going to charge £5. But this strategy of, he was just walking around saying he's going to clean windows, and this guy just walks up to him. He immediately gets a client. Before he even goes and gets the supplies, he can already say, oh, I've got for sure a client, which is awesome. First of all, great business technique to be able to spend money and make the money, but you already know you're going to be making money. That's good. It's less risky that way, which this whole thing's about risk. So he gets paid for this, and it was a cool little store. You can see the canal from where the windows were, and there were some really funny shots of him on the other side of the window waving and great stuff like that. But I just said he had good business sense to kind of accept this before he went off and bought this stuff. But then we found out that he doesn't know how much he's going to get paid. So realistically, he could have just gotten paid like $1 or even less, or, a pound or €1 or whatever. But when he opens the letter from the guy, he got £100 for cleaning those windows, which is a ton of money. And it just kind of, he's set for the rest of the day. With all of the stuff that he needs, £100 he's not going to use all of that, but he literally wins the day and doesn't really have to do anything else. But I imagine in his head, he's like, well, the YouTube video is really short, so let's keep working. And so he does. And this is where we begin to see, okay, he got really, really lucky because, he has to work hard to find his next client that wants to pay him to do windows. And he originally is going to pay him £5, but then says, oh, if I'll give you 10 if you can get the paint off of the window. And it's interesting because Ryan is in this situation where this is his money making technique of the day. And and he can't really, get clients very easily. So if he can get an extra 5 pounds, he's got all the time in the world to fix that paint. So who knows how long he spent trying to get that paint off, but he was able to get it and he got 10 pounds. So he was at about 110 pounds at this point in the video, which is fantastic. And then after all of that, he sits down to enjoy the food that the first window client gave him, which was a really good haul. And this is what I wanted when I talked about yesterday in my predictions. I wanted like an experience that you can't have anywhere else food wise. And that's exactly what happens. And it just so happened because the guy donated him something called Stroop waffles. And so this gives off the Amsterdam vibe that we were looking for. And he says that it's a really big thing in Amsterdam. So I Googled it, and Google says that it's a well-known Dutch treat that consists of a thin round waffle cookie made from 2 layers of sweet baked dough held together by a caramel filling. And that sounds delicious. That sounds really tasty. And I don't think that I've ever really had anything like that. So it must be a very Dutch, a very Amsterdam kind of experience, which is exactly the kind of thing I've never even heard of that. It's so cool to be able to watch a fun series and learn about little things like that. And it's way better than the baguette that we talked about yesterday, because to me, a baguette, not unique. I've had a baguette before, and I don't think it being from France is going to make it special, but the stroopwafel is very cool. And then he's able to go off and rent a bike and still has over 100 pounds left. So he gets to buy his hygiene products, which was another one of our predictions from yesterday. The dirtier he gets, the more it's going to be difficult for him to get jobs and just talk to people. So he buys deodorant and toothpaste and toothbrush, and it adds it to his inventory, and he's in good shape now. Like, if he can smell nice and kind of look nice, he's in good shape. So then he goes and does all of his hygiene stuff in a park. So very bold for him to sit out in a park and just kind of hang out and kind of do all of his, brushing his teeth, put on his deodorant in front of everybody, I'm assuming. I don't know if that's something that I would want to do, but especially considering where he goes at the end of the day. But I understand, he probably felt really gross and wanted to just get it over with. We talked about yesterday that, he needs something like a hammock, and I don't know if the hammocks would work out. Well, that's exactly what we talked about in this video, and I'm glad he specifically addressed the hammock, because he says that a hammock wouldn't be a good option because someone got fined 230 pounds just for hammocking, which is crazy to me. I can't imagine the situation. I guess it's like what we were talking about in Paris. If it was allowed, people would just be touristing at these locations, and that's what they would do because that's a lot cheaper. And then they're going to be overrun with hammocks and tents, and it's just going to look like a homeless person convention. So the solution, which I can't believe I didn't think about this yesterday when we were brainstorming what's going to happen next, is a hostel, which of course it is. 25 euro for a hostel is a great deal, and that gives him a bathroom so he can shower and he doesn't have to brush his teeth in the middle of a park like this last day that he's been doing that. And so for those of you who don't know who a hostel is, it's genuinely the best case scenario for him right now, because basically all that's guaranteed in a hostel is that you get your own bed, and then you have to share everything else. You have to share your room, which he kind of shows in the video. He's on a bunk bed with a bunch of other beds, and he just has to share that room. Maybe you have a kitchen, but you do have a bathroom at least, which is really good for him. And I've actually had an experience in a hostel where I was in Boston, so this is an American hostel, but it was cheaper and everything's communal, except we actually had our own room, which was really nice. We didn't have to share, which is just, obviously that's not ideal, but we probably paid a little bit more since we were having our own private room. But it's very different than your typical hotel or anything like that. But it's a fun vibe, and there's a sense of community, so that's really cool. He reviews his money at this point, and I looked at it again too. When I went last night to check, it was at $330K raised, but now it's just at $160K, which is really sad. But yesterday in the last video, we talked about how it got hacked, and I guess what we saw, that $330K, was part of the hack stuff, and they had gone through and cleaned all of the fake money out. But that's so upsetting, because I was sitting over here thinking like, $1 million easily by the end of the day. But by end of day 2, having 160 is not a bad deal. So That's good, at least. Now we're going to go to the Twitter comments of the day, and I picked out a few of my favorite ones of just what I saw around Twitter and what are people saying about this series so far. So Ryan tweeted out the top donors, and so we know coming up soon, maybe tomorrow, the day after that, Smart Prop Trader is going to have the Great Reset defense because they put $50,000 and $1. So that protects him from the Great Reset. That's really cool. And then we also see the other top 5 donations on there, and 50,000 is an incredible amount of money. That is wild. Then underneath that, I saw just this random comment by somebody called The Modest Teacher, and he says, "Teachers on summer break, this is a fun YouTube series to watch with your kids. Ryan's videos are funny, positive, and uplifting." And I mean, I love that comment, but who is he writing it to? Because this isn't like a retweet to his audience. This is a comment under the video. So I'm like, well, who are you talking to me? Because I'm that's not right. And then next I saw this kind of interesting idea. This one Twitter, I guess he's a YouTuber named Kanan. It's at Kanan Games, and he's doing a shiny hunting Ryan Trahan's Pokemon on a penny. And it's just like, I kind of looked into it, and it looks like this interesting idea. He's doing the same thing for a fundraiser, but he's doing it in Pokemon. I'm assuming he's a big Pokemon YouTube creator, and he's got his own rules that are at the base of the tweet, and that's exciting. I like to see creativity and culture and community and all of that. So you get a little bit of that Pokemon, and he's going to build his own community with Ryan, and it's not too unsimilar to what we're doing here. Speaking of, this is a brand new channel, and this is my second video ever. So if you're watching this, please subscribe. And for every new subscriber that I get while Ryan is making this series, I will donate a penny to the water organization that he is fundraising, which is awesome. And I really hope that we can get a big donation for that. Now, moving from that, we also had this cool stat by Glisten on Twitter. And he said, hitting the 100K goal before the first day is impressive, but getting over 5,000 people to say, "Let's go, George," may make the top spot. So he's got this picture of all of these just fun things about the comments that were in the first video, which is very cool. So over 5,000 people commented, "Let's go, George." Over 194 people wanted to talk about the Great Reset poses. 174 people wanted, waiting for someone to inform that girl she is in fact a mammal. They were talking about that mammal stuff, similar to what, I definitely took note of that yesterday. The mammal thing was interesting, and just all kinds of cool stuff in this graphic. 66 people want to make sure Ryan knows there are McDonald's apps for each country, which is great because we see that apply later on. Like, he's in this video, he says, "Oh yeah, I figured out how to get the stuff working in McDonald's for the discount," which is awesome. And then the highlighted comment for yesterday's video, which I guess I didn't even see, I didn't realize, was Ryan could just draw a portrait for 7 days to buy that $800 ticket. And that is 100% something that I thought about, which is just crazy. So those are the comments for the day. Now we're going to get into our predictions, one of my favorite part about this series so far. So for predictions for day 3, he's got money to spend, but what will he do with it? That's really the end of the goal, right? He's got his next location already. Does he go ahead and buy his ticket? Surely he needs more than $100 to get from his next location to, I'm assuming, America. I don't really know how many spots there's going to be between now and then. Another thing worth noting is he's got a bike. How does he use that to make money? Is he just using the bike for fun touristy stuff? I can't imagine that he won't use some kind of way to make money on it tomorrow, because that's just a great opportunity, and he's gonna have it for basically the full day tomorrow. He can't Uber Eats, but I was thinking maybe there's something kind of like a TaskRabbit type thing where he can just deliver, do some odd jobs, or he can work for somebody as like a errand boy or something, so it's not in an app necessarily. That's kind of my brainstorming. I also thought, like, when I think bike and biking around, I think like a paper delivery service. So something like that could be interesting. But I think one of his goals for the day, especially since he's going to start the day off with a good amount of money, will be to go on a boat in the canal. And so if he doesn't do that, I will be rather upset, because that's exactly what I would do if I was in his shoes. And then I bet he stays at another hostel, but I bet it's not the same one. And then I do think that he will not leave Amsterdam tomorrow, but it will be the next day that he leaves Amsterdam. Amsterdam, and he won't tell us where he's going. So that's where I'm going to leave you today. Make sure you subscribe so a penny will go to this organization at the end of this series, and thank you for watching.